This is the Financial Beat, helping you hit all the right notes in your financial plan. So sit back as we strike up the band. The Financial Beat with Logan Sadler starts now.
Welcome to the Financial Beat with Logan Sadler, VP and Chief Investment Officer at Gary Financial. Wherever you happen to be today in Hemet, Redlands, wherever you are in Southern California, we thank you for taking the time to listen to the show today. I think you'll definitely get a lot of benefit from this program. And I'm Ron Stutz. Always a pleasure to hang out with Logan. Logan, how you been?
I'm good, Ron. Doing great. Settling back into the office and ready to give a great show to the valuable listeners.
Hope everybody out there had a great 4th of July holiday weekend. And I know that Logan and I both, we didn't do it together, but we both celebrated the 4th of July in various ways.
Our thoughts were with each other.
It's kind of hard to get back into the saddle, I'll tell you what, this week. But, this past week has been kind of crazy. Everybody getting back to normal here. And we're going to talk about getting you to and through retirement. Let me give you the phone number for Logan Sadler and the folks at Gary Financial. It is 888-823-PLAN, 888-823-PLAN. You can get a discovery meeting going with Logan, and all you got to do is call this number right now and leave your name with your phone number, and you'll get a call back, 888-823-PLAN. Hey, let's talk about the very first visit when you get together with folks, and in that discovery meeting, you discover things about them, they discover things about you. But some people are really nervous about the idea of meeting with a financial advisor because they just don't know what to expect. Are they going to be sold something they don't really need? Are they going to be pressured? Yeah. Will they be chastised for not handling their money well enough up to that point? So let's take some of the mystery out of that very first visit. How hard is it to get prepared for a visit with you, and what do people need to do to be ready?
Yeah, that's a really great point. A lot of people are typically nervous when meeting with the financial advisor. Most people don't meet with one that often, or they typically do so right as they're getting ready for retirement or inheriting money or going through a divorce or whatever the reason is. So typically, many people don't always have financial advisors, so it's kind of a new uncharted territory for most, right? And so when they come in, we like to make it as easy as possible. And so basically, for that first appointment, all you really got to have is a pretty good understanding of what assets you have, what you're coming in to talk about. Like I said, whether it's a divorce or widowed, or you're getting ready to retire, whatever the instance is, it's really just a conversation and really having a synergy around the two of us. I love to really just kind of take the time to get to understand the clients. We're going to talk a lot about you, your family, again, what you envision over the next 5, 10, 20 years, and really just kind of make it as easy as possible centered around a conversation. And obviously having things like your Social Security report, your financial statements, all that stuff we asked for to have at the first meeting, really just so we can kind of get an understanding of where you're at and what you're looking to do. We talk a lot about risk and what's your experience with money or the stock market or whatever your investments you're in. And I love to ask the question as well, what experiences have you had with a financial advisor? And if you haven't had one, what were you expecting to have? What were you expecting that experience to be like? So we like to make it as easy as possible. And again, it's a great time for the two of us or three of us, depending on how many people you bring to the meeting, if it's a couple. And we really just have a conversation centered around your envisionment of what this next phase is going to look like. And it's really just a great conversation to sit down and get to understand each other. Because we always say, and I say it all the time on the show, I think that a lot of this relationship between us and the clients and clients to the advisor, it really is centered around communication. So if we can't have great conversation and really connect with one another, the investments and all that would be great, but if you can't connect with someone on either side, it's not normally a great relationship. So we really like to center it more around the relationship and just kind of talk through what it is you're going through and what it is you're looking to do.
People don't like to be surprised, and they often, are maybe a little apprehensive about that very first get-together. What's a question that you often ask people in that very first visit that isn't necessarily unpleasant, but they weren't expecting you to ask?
Yeah, a lot of the times there's a few questions I ask where I see people kind of go, I never thought about that, or I've never been asked that. And one of them is I always ask them, do you have a financial advisor? And they'll ask yes or no. And then I ask them, what are you not getting from your advisor? Or what were you expecting to get from a financial advisor that you haven't been getting or that you thought they should do? And I phrase it kind of just like that. And a lot of the times they go, well, I don't really know, or I always thought they would do this, or I thought they would call me more, or I thought they'd have more investment options that I couldn't do myself, or whatever it is. They're kind of drawn back by that question, because the whole point of me asking that question is to really make sure that what they're saying is something I could do, obviously, right? Whether that's more advice or whether it's more investment options or whatever it is. And a lot of the times that gets them really thinking about what they want out of the relationship. And that's really, like I said, the relationship is what we focus a lot on, because I can't control what the market does tomorrow, right? But I can control the relationship, and how we can communicate, to me, is the biggest thing. So I would say asking that question, Ron, as well as asking them, how do they envision retirement? Mm-hmm. And then they'll go, well, what do you mean? Like from an income perspective? No. Put investments down, put money down. Well, how do you envision it? I mean, is it traveling? Do you have kids? Do you have charities? I mean, having that more of that centered conversation around their realistic, goals and expectations in retirement is really kind of drawing people back, because a lot of advisors spend so much time talking about analytics and investments and bonds and annuities, and all that stuff's great, and a lot of those tools are obviously used to get us to retirement. But if we don't know how you're envisioning retirement first, I don't know how we could really build a plan centered around what lifestyle we're going to live in retirement. So it really is a great conversation to have with the client, and a lot of the times those two questions really draw people back and get them thinking. The third one I love to ask the most, Ron, where they go, well, I've never really thought about that, is I'll ask them, okay, we talk about return and what they're expecting to get, and I talk a lot about that in the beginning, and they'll say, I want a 10% return, and, risk-wise, I think I'm a 50 or a 70, whatever the risk score is, and then I'll ask them, okay, so let's say you have $1 million. How much money are you willing to lose or temporarily lose in a market pullback? Mm-hmm. And then they'll go, I don't know. They'll go, I don't really like losing money. And I say, well, yeah, but you already said you want a 10% return, which is on the aggressive side for sure. And then they're saying, okay, well, I'm a 60 or 70 risk score. And I go, to me, that tells me that you're comfortable with going down, 20 to 30% if we had a pullback. And they go, well, that'd be $300,000. And it's like, well, yeah, but that's what the risk score would be. And they go, oh, well, yeah, I'm not comfortable with that at all. And it's okay, so now we can have a real conversation, right? Now that we've set the expectation of upside and downside, then you have a real conversation centered around goals and expectations and risk tolerance and all that. So those are the three conversations or three questions I like to ask a lot during our first meeting. And of course, there's several others, but those ones are the best because it really kind of allows us just to have a real organic conversation.
Oh, wow. And to get a little bit more specific here, what's a common issue or strategy that you end up pointing out to people that they didn't even know to ask about?
What's funny is there's a few things I could point to. I mean, there's things like a lot of people have these misconceptions about annuities or a lot of that insurance type of world. And I think a lot of the times because they met with an insurance person, right? Maybe the person they've heard about them in the past said, if you have $1 million, your $1 million should go in annuities and you don't need anything else, right? Or you should buy this index universal life and nothing else. And we don't work that way. We work that way where we're obviously, we do market-based investments. We do, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETFs, all that, as well as we work on the annuity side and the insurance side. So there's a lot of misconceptions out there. And I'll tell a client, hey, they have $1 million and they're looking to get that risk score down, or they're looking to generate cash flow. Here's how this annuity could work. Did you know that when the market goes up, that you could really get a high percentage rate of what that market return does? Some of these, have a participation rate that if the market goes up, let's say they have a 70% participation rate and the market went up 10% in that contract year, you could make 7% on that return. And again, it's principal protected. So if next year the market tanks, you still have that 7% interest you earned last year and your principal. And they go, well, I never really thought about that, or I didn't know they worked that way, right? So I think having those conversations around more than just stocks, bonds, as well as we have, private equity investments, real estate investments, and things of that sort as well. But I think having those strategy conversations in our second meeting where they just kind of aren't really aware or haven't been taught the idea of retirement planning from anybody that was, again, a full service financial firm. They may have just talked to the broker or just talked to an insurance guy and not understood that a lot of these can really complement each other in a great strategy for retirement.
How often exactly do you tell somebody that you can't help them?
Yeah,
Does that ever happen?
It's funny. There is people that we're not necessarily a great fit for, but I never tell people, hey, I can't help you at all, right? That's not how it works. I have some clients that maybe they're, hey, I'm coming into some money, I don't have it yet, but I'm currently in debt. Okay, here's a spreadsheet on how to help get out of debt. Here's a budget calculator and all this stuff. I mean, so we're very, very helpful. Like I always say, this world is way too small to be mean or not do right by people, right? Because it always comes back around. So it's very, very rare that we ever have to tell someone, hey, we can't help them. Again, a lot of the times we talk with clients' kids all the time. I mean, we talk with brother-in-law, sister-in-laws, and just give advice out. We're very, very open and helpful. Well, all we always ask for is as long as you're respect, you have respect, mutual respect between one another here and there. That's all we ask for, and we're very, very helpful. But we do have a client base that we deal with, right? A lot of our clients are between the ages of 55 and 65 when they come on board, and they're looking to generate a secure retirement. And so that's a lot of what we do. So if they don't fit that mold specifically, then we still can give them advice and help them out and do different things. And a lot of them do end up coming on board either way. But, it's never, hey, oh, you don't have $3 million. Okay, we're going to send you down the road. That's not how we do business.
Okay, I got one more question here on this topic. The very first visit we're talking about with Regari Financial and your very first conversation with Logan Sadler. Fill in this blank for us, Logan. When a visit with you ends, people often say blank.
Want me to tell you what I hope they say or what they? No, I'm joking. So typically, most of the time after that first appointment, a lot of them say, well, that was nice, right? That was a great, again, we spend about an hour and a half really getting to know you. And it's not even, like you said in the beginning, I think so many people are used to, hey, I've talked with you for 10 minutes. Let me tell you about this really great thing you should put all your money into, right? They're typically used to getting sold. And I think a lot of clients really appreciate that we're not pushing just products, or it's not like a high pressured sales meeting. Really what it is a great conversation back and forth, getting to understand what it is you're trying to do. Because I always tell people, I had this person call up a few weeks ago, and it was funny because he was like, he didn't want to come in, just wanted to do a phone call, which is fine. Didn't want to do a Zoom, just wanted to do a phone call, no problem. And he says, okay, so what are you offering? It's like, well, what do you mean? I was like, this is a discovery meeting. We can get to know each other. He's like, well, no, what products are you going to sell me? And it's like, well, I have no idea. I don't even know you yet. Why would I already have something in mind? I don't know what stage you're in, what your risk tolerance is, what your comfortability is, any of that. And I think that's what a lot of people typically enjoy about when they come on board with our firm is a lot of it is centered around what your risk tolerance is, what your comfort level is, what your goals are. We spend a lot of time on the tax strategy side that a lot of advisors just don't do. A lot of them just stay in their own lane and do investments. We really feel that it's important to have a really great idea of what our tax picture is going to look like down the road. So I think a lot of people are very often surprised after that first visit, and they're always waiting for me at the very end to push something or to turn corner and do this way and do the sales pitch. Like I always say, the first appointment, the whole goal of the first appointment is to have you come back for a second appointment, right? That's really all we're there to do. It's not there to push anything on you. And I think that, like I said, that's a lot of what people really enjoy about our firm is more of the laid back. Yes, obviously we have tons of tools and tons of different solutions we could use for the clients, but we feel the plan will speak for itself. When we put together a plan of these investments, this tax strategy, this estate planning strategy, and this income plan, that's going to sell itself. I don't have to sell you over and over again on this product. A lot of it's just, again, conversation, getting to know each other. So I would say, Ron, to answer it, I would just see people are often surprised after that first meeting how it's really just like I say it's going to be, just informational gathering, great conversation. We're really going to kind of help chart that course for that next 20 or 30 years. So those of you that are listening to the show and are interested in that discovery meeting, like I said, give us a call. Ron's going to give you the number, and really all you do is come in and we'll sit down and go over your financials, and we're going to help chart out the next 20 or 30 years of your retirement.
If you'd like a discovery meeting with no cost and no obligation involved, then call this number, 888-823-PLAN. That's 888-823-PLAN. And you don't have to sit in a room with Logan and just wait for the hammer to come down like some folks think that first meeting is going to be. It's not like that at all. It's a conversation to get to know Logan. He can get to know you, and he's not going to recommend anything that first time you get together, as far as products or anything like that is concerned, because he doesn't know you yet. So it's a very pleasant get-together. You will be glad you called this number, 888 888-823-PLAN. Logan Sadler, of course, at Regary Financial, convenient offices in Hemet and also Redlands. You can have a Zoom meeting if you like. If you prefer it that way, that's just fine. Still, no cost, no obligation. 888-823-PLAN. You're listening to the Financial Beat. Logan Sadler and I will be right back with more in just a moment.
Do you ever find yourself skipping through countless songs trying to find the perfect one? Yeah, we've been there too, and know it can be frustrating. Much like skipping through the countless advertisements from other financial advisors, it can seem like there's so much misinformation. But here on the Financial Beat, you can rest assured we're providing you with the best information possible. So don't push skip on this show, because we have some important information coming up.
Welcome back to the Financial Beat with Logan Sadler, Vice President, Chief Investment Officer at Regary Financial. At Regary Financial, they have terrific partnerships with local CPAs, attorneys, real estate agents, mortgage lenders, Medicare specialists, everybody involved in money in one way or another to help offer you well-rounded guidance in all things financial for their clients. You can get a discovery meeting with Logan Sadler. It's not going to cost you anything. The number to call is 888-823-PLAN. That is 888-823-PLAN. Go ahead and reach out today and make that happen. 888-823-PLAN. Hey, let's talk about famous last words. An engineer who helped build the Titanic said, "Even God himself could not sink this ship." Oops.
Yeah, what? Talk about eating your words, right?
Yeah, sometimes things don't turn out the way you think.
No.
Let's talk about some of the financial statements that people make that often end up coming back to bite them. Okay, so
Let's do it.
one person may say, "I told myself a few years ago that I'd get out of the market if I ever recovered what I lost in the last crash, but now I think I'll just keep doing what I'm doing." You've heard that, haven't you?
I have, and the market's so hard, right? I mean, the funny thing about investing is, too, talking with so many different types of people, there's some people that invest for the long term, there's some that invest for the short term, and then all in between. And I think the biggest thing here is a lot of people think, okay, when the market crashed, I'm going to leave my money there. As soon as it gets back up to the top, I'm out, right? And then here's what happens. The market recovers, and you start making money again. And you go, man, this is nice, right? And then you get comfortable again, and a few years down the road, it smacks you in the mouth again, right? And the market goes down.
Yep.
And you tell yourself the same thing. Well, man, if I could just get back to where I was, I'd be out. Well, and that's not, I always tell people, that is not a retirement plan. That's not an investment plan. That is just hoping you got some luck and hoping you could ride out the bumps and bruises along the way. And let me tell you, one thing is certain out there with the market is it will go up and it will go down all throughout those periods, right? So if you're one of those investors that's just hoping the market can just get back to where it was, and that means that you really probably don't have the best investment plan put together with other assets out there as far as safe money, income producing vehicles, alternatives and things of that sort. It probably means you're just all in the market, which means, yeah, you're kind of just hoping it goes up and hoping to get back to where it recovers. And I'm telling you, as soon as that happens, you'll get a little bump along the way. The market, I always like to say, and I've said this before, but it's a lot like a friendship or like a marriage where, yeah, sometimes it's great, right? And then sometimes there's bumps and bruises along the way. And that's how the market works. But I think a lot of the people that don't put enough emphasis into having other investments, other investment plans, retirement plans, assets, things of that sort, you're just kind of hoping the market goes up and down. And sometimes, we might have too big of a crash where if you're taking income or at the wrong period of time, it might be detrimental and you might not be able to get back to where you were before you have a chance to recover your money. So that's definitely something to keep in mind, to hope your last words, they don't bite you, and make sure, again, that you're able to balance your risk and think long term, but not put too much of yourself out there hanging on the risk side.
You're listening to the Financial Beat with Logan Sadler. Again, if you'd like to reach Logan and get a conversation going with him, we call it a discovery meeting. 888-823-PLAN. That is 888-823-PLAN. More famous last words here for you, Logan. Nobody in my family has lived past 75, so I'm not really planning to live a long time either. Boy, I'm sure there's so many people who've regretted thinking like that.
Yeah, you know what, and I would say that's up there with a lot of the common thoughts we hear from clients that come in. Oh, yeah, I want to get a retirement plan together, but my great grandfather didn't live that long, or my dad didn't live that long, or whatever the case is, right? And a lot of times it's men. We always say, I won't be around that long. But the problem is a lot of us are, right? So, and I always tell people, if you're married, the chances of both of you, or the chances of one of you, of living the full life expectancy of around, 85 to 88 is pretty high. And a lot of the times not having an investment plan, retirement plan, blueprint laid out to know that, hey, if I do live that long, what is my life going to look like at that point, right? If you don't plan properly for that 20-year retirement, it can really bite you in the butt. And I see so many clients spend too much money too early because they think, hey, I'm young, I'm going to enjoy it while I can. And then, you know what, in my mid-80s or whatnot, when I get older, I'm going to not spend as much money. And then all of a sudden, we have nursing home or other things of that sort. So having to living is a good thing, right? We want to live. You don't want to be one of those people that goes, man, I'm out of money. Hopefully I don't live too much longer, right? You don't want to have that mindset. So it's so important to make sure that you understand that your retirement plan for you and your spouse could be a 20 or 30-year retirement into your late 80s or early 90s in a lot of cases. And it's one of the most crucial things I see a lot of people not planning for is longevity. And it is a huge risk because, again, people are just living longer. So we need to adjust our plans to make sure that our plan can live longer too, right?
Every time we talk about any kind of long-term care, any kind of health care needs late in life, we're talking about big dollars here. I mean, it really is expensive. And a lot of people, when you bring that up to them, they say, no, I won't ever go into a nursing home. I'd rather just be put out of my misery than have to end up there. But that's not really a realistic way to look at it.
No, it's not. You hear the other one, if I live that long and I'm in that bad a shape, just take me for a walk, right? Or send me up the mountain or something. But, that's all joking, right? And the problem is a lot of the times, like you said, Ron, it's something we always say, it'll never happen to me, and then all of a sudden it does. And a lot of the people that say it'll never happen to me, a lot of them have taken care of a parent or aunt and uncle that have been in a nursing home or spent time in there, right? So we're just kind of blinded saying, it won't happen to me, even though we know lots of people that have been in those situations. So, I always say it's something where I'm talking with a lot of clients, and I think you asked this on a previous segment, or what are some of the products or services out there that people aren't too sure on or don't understand. Yeah. And I would say it's a lot of the long-term care products. It is crazy to me how those long-term care products over these last few years have really, really changed, and they've just gotten so much better for the clients and the consumers, where there's just so much more benefit you can get out of them. Yes, for long-term care, yes, for nursing home and things of that sort, but also if you don't use them, they still have benefits to them. A lot of people remember, hey, if I put $100,000 into this policy and I don't use it, that $100,000 is gone, right? It's kind of like car insurance where you pay, and if you never use it, it was gone. Yeah. Well, now a lot of them have a death benefit or a return of premium on them, where basically if you put in $100,000 and don't use it, a lot of the times it gives you pretty close to your amount of money back, or in some cases more. And it's really a great way to leverage your money, right? We could put X amount of money here, and if we go into long-term care, it's going to pay out a huge amount over that. If not, at least a lot of the cases you get your money back. So it's something where you really got to make sure not to say no to everything. A lot of our clients, when we start talking about long-term care, and they say, I got $1 million, I don't need long-term care. Okay, perfect. Well, if something happens to you in that point, what assets do you want me to start selling first so we could pay for it, right? And then they go, I don't want to get rid of this stock or that mutual fund, or it's. I like to be very, very realistic about it. That hey, if something does happen, we got to make sure we cover it. And I don't care if it's out of the portfolio or if it's a long-term care product or if it's life insurance or whatever it is. But we got to get a plan together for it, because the odds are just too high that it might be a real issue for us down the road. So why not get ahead of it now in some aspect? And so just having that conversation with clients, I've seen just a huge, huge benefit for the clients. And again, that's my job, right? That's what I'm here for, is to make sure we're bringing up all those things that you might not be thinking of down the road, or a lot of you might be thinking of them, but not know what strategies to implement. And that's what we're here for.
We're talking about famous last words on this edition of the Financial Beat with Logan Sadler. And Logan, here's one last one on the list here that I have. I can always go back to work if I really have to. Yeah, a lot of people feel that way.
They do. I had a statistic, and I'm probably off a little bit here, but I had, most of the clients that come in and meet with an advisor, they say, hey, you know what, I'm retiring right now, but I plan to go back to work. Only 64% of people don't go back to work, right? It's something where it always sounds good, but a lot of people forget when you retire, you might retire at 65 or 70. If you in 5 or 10 years, you're not going back to work at 80 years old, right? Or 75 years old. So it's something where a lot of people say it, but it's something that's not as realistic as you might think. And I could tell you a quick story with a person we're meeting with right now who she's trying to come on board with our firm, and really great lady, just super nice. One of the people that we would definitely want to work with. But she's in a really hard spot. She took a buyout from work. They made her retire early, and she accepted it and had a pretty good hunk saved, but didn't do proper planning. And she has blown a pretty good chunk of that money over the last few years just trying to live with the cost of inflation and things of that sort. And now I'm running the reports for her, and we're talking through everything. And it's one of those situations where she's going to have to cut her retirement income she's living off of right now in half.
Wow.
Because she's going to run out of money. I mean, not even at 80 or 90, but I mean in the next few years. So it's something, not knowing what you're going to do in retirement and saying, hey, I'll just go back to work. Well, the problem with her is she has a big health issue. She can't work. And so it's one of those things where it always sounds good on paper, but when actually, comes time to cross the T's, dot the I's, and implement the plan, she's not able to go back to work at this current time. So you really want to make sure we have a lot more of a retirement plan put in place to where I'll spend all this money, and then when I'm out, I'll just go back to work for another 20 years, right? Yeah. Doesn't necessarily work that way. So that's definitely what we do as far as financial planning and retirement planning. That's part of what this discovery meeting's for. A lot of you guys out there might have an advisor or might not, and are looking for a way to get that retirement blueprint together and take a look at what's going to happen over the next few years in your retirement planning, and making sure that we're getting an income plan that's built to last not 5 years, but maybe 10, 20, or 30 years, and making sure that you have an advisor that's been there and done that with clients. And if you're looking for that, that's what we're here for. Give us a call. I'd love to sit down with you and do our discovery meeting on Zoom or either at one of our offices.
Logan Sadler's number is 888-823-PLAN. That is 888-823-7526. That number is for Gary Financial. And when you do have that discovery meeting, you'll be having it with Logan Sadler, the same person you hear on this radio show every week. 888-823-PLAN is your number to call to get a discovery meeting, no cost and no obligation. And Logan works with 3 different generations of the client families at Gary. Many clients have been with the firm for more than a quarter of a century. He's been helping a lot of folks, a lot of individuals, couples, families, and different generations get to and through retirement, and can certainly help you as well. It's not going to cost you anything to check it out. Get a discovery meeting going. 888-823-PLAN is your number to call. No cost and no obligation to take it any further after that. 888-823-PLAN. The show is all about getting you to and through retirement. It's called The Financial Beat. I'm Ron Stutz along with Logan Sadler, and there's more coming up in just a moment. Stay with us.
Like what you're hearing on the show? Did you know that Logan Sadler also has a podcast? On the podcast, you'll hear more discussion about important retirement planning topics like Social Security planning, tax saving strategies, and much more. Subscribe to the Financial Beat podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and all major podcast streaming services.
Did you know music is good for the heart? A study at a university in Italy showed that music helps promote a better cardiovascular system. But we also know that a sound financial plan is good for peace of mind. Keep listening to the Financial Beat so we can help you find a plan that both your head and your heart can agree on.
Welcome back to the Financial Beat with Logan Sadler. Logan's on the radio every week here on this show. We appreciate your listening. And also, there are podcasts that you can access. And Logan has his own YouTube channel. Logan, take a moment, if you would, and explain to our listeners how they can access all that good information.
Yeah, those of you that are enjoying this radio show currently, you can actually head over to podcast platforms, whether that's Apple Music, Spotify, Amazon Music, anywhere you download podcasts, and you could find The Financial Beat with Logan Sadler. And there's over 60 episodes now uploaded and recorded on there where you can catch this radio show anytime, anywhere at your convenience. Again, great educational information for you guys to go check out on the podcast platforms. And those of you that like watching YouTube videos that are a little bit more shorter, more purposeful useful content in one specific area, that's why we have the YouTube channel. So you can head over to YouTube and type in The Financial Beat, and you'll see we have around 20 videos now uploaded on there where there's different content on Social Security optimization, how to judge risk in your retirement, how to construct an income plan, a lot of different great educational videos on there for you to check out at your convenience.
Well, let me just tell you that they are very helpful, very informative, very easy to watch, and easy to access as well. So why not take advantage of the opportunity? Hey, the best advice I can give you right now is to go ahead and call this number for Regari Financial. Get in touch, have a one-on-one discovery meeting with Logan Sadler, 888-823-PLAN. That is 888-823-PLAN. Listen to the radio show, listen to the podcast, check out the videos on the YouTube channel, and call this number. Please write it down if you haven't already, 888-823-PLAN. That number will get you a discovery meeting, either via Zoom, or maybe you might want to come into one of the convenient offices in Hemet and Redlands. Well, let's talk about scandal-free retirement. If you take a close look at most folks' financial situations, you'll find that it's almost scandalous how badly their financial matters have been handled over the years.
Oh, okay.
So, Logan, let's talk about the steps people ought to take to create a scandal-free retirement. Number one, impeach consumer debt. What do we mean by that?
I would think what they mean by that really is what we're saying is a lot of us are consumers, right? Meaning we're out there buying things. A lot of us overbuy things, right? A lot of us have stuff we probably don't. What is that? There's a difference between a need and a want, right? And so a lot of us can justify, well, this could be a need, right? And it's a lot of that times it's mostly just a want. So you really got to make sure when we're talking about retirement and financial situations, you really want to make sure that you're justifying this as a need. Now, obviously, we got to have a portion of the budget that's wants, because you do want to have things. And if you're like any human out there, it might be you're into classic cars, or it might be you're into golf, or it might be you're into arts things, right? Painting or drawings and things of that sort, right? Everything costs money. Yep. So you really want to make sure when you're looking at a retirement plan, a lot of it comes down to managing that consumer debt, to where at one point, the average credit card debt per household was over $14,000. So, that's something where the 20% interest rate and an average retirement, people putting their monthly budget, monthly payments towards it, that's going to take a heck of a long time to pay off, right? That $20,000 might cost us more like $40,000 or $50,000. So really understanding what consumer debt is, and understanding to make sure you're not getting yourself in that situation by budgeting and doing the right things to keep debt as low as possible.
Yeah. Also, here's another way you can stay out of trouble in your retirement. Stop the leaks in your budget.
Oh, man. Yeah, it's what's funny, I always tell clients, I was talking to a radio listener the other day on a Zoom call. He called in for a discovery meeting, and we were kind of going through it, and he was 59 years old, getting ready to retire here in the next few years, and he was just saying, hey, how do you figure out, really early in the meeting, he was like, how do you figure out how much money I'll need in retirement? And there's other metrics we have that are like rules of thumbs and things of that sort. Mm-hmm. But I always said, I love people to fill out a budget sheet. And he was like, oh, okay. And I was like, yeah, we have one that's already, it's basically an Excel spreadsheet. And you don't have to do it, but it's just a really great idea to kind of give you guys an idea of what you spend per month. And he did it and went through it all. And he was super happy to kind of dive through it because he hadn't had a budget sheet before. Yeah. And it was funny. He was like, it is amazing when you write out what you spend, where the money goes, right? Because a lot of our clients, are higher net worth. And so they're making, $10, $15, $20, $30,000 a month. And it's funny because at the end of it, they go, where did it all go? I only have, a car payment and a mortgage, some health insurance, and then all of a sudden my money's gone, right? And once you start typing in on that budget sheet where you spend money in, entertainment or eating out or whatever the case is, we notice that there's a lot of leaks in the budget. So you really, I always tell people, don't think of it as a bad thing. It's really a great opportunity to sit down and, you and your spouse have a glass of wine or a cup of coffee or whatever it is you drink and make a night out of it. It takes an hour, type it into and I have a spreadsheet that we have if you guys need one, but basically, really understanding where you guys spend money. And it doesn't mean you need to stop having fun or stop doing everything, but I think understanding where the leaks are is super, super important. And once you're more aware of it, it typically is a lot easier to make that mental adjustment to know, hey, okay, here's where I got to slow down on some of the spending because we're spending way too much money on, going to the movies or buying car parts or whatever it is. So just knowing where those leaks in your budget are huge because, again, you might not have that same income in retirement. And if you're used to spending that much, it might not be a great recipe for a successful retirement.
Just putting it down on paper is a great exercise and helps you understand it and remember it. That's for sure. Anytime I have to speak to anyone or, make any kind of a speech or, MC some kind of an event, anything like that, I always write down basically what I'm going to say, and then I may not follow it exactly, but, it's a good guide to have for sure.
You got a little map. At least you got a little map laid out.
Yeah, exactly. Obstruct your catastrophic market losses. That's a way to avoid a scandal in retirement.
Yeah, it is. A market loss can be a great opportunity for a lot of people, right? A lot of people that are younger putting money away. It can be a great thing when the market goes down for you. I know it doesn't feel like it at the time, but it can be a great thing over time. But I just know a lot of the clients that we meet with are, let's say 60, 65 years old, and, they have a good hunk saved for retirement. And then all of a sudden this market correction happens. It goes down 30%. Yeah. And hey, by the way, I need $30,000 or $40,000 a year out of this portfolio in retirement. Now that market event just got extremely increased, right? Because of the income we need from it. So it's something where I've seen it time and time again where a market correction, if not positioned properly, can be extremely detrimental to a portfolio and a retirement longevity. So how do we kind of eliminate that fear or put limits to it? And there's a lot of other investments out there where we talk about on the show, fixed annuities, fixed index annuities, bond, real estate, or structured notes. There's a lot of other ways that we could implement something where we're not as impacted by this. And I always tell people, stocks and mutual funds and all that are great, but some of us might not need all of our money in there, right? We might need some money with some protection as well as some other assets that produce income. So it's very, very important when you're looking at investment planning and retirement planning to understand that there is things out there to shield yourself from a severe loss. I have some of our clients, the market might be down 20 or 25%, and some of them might only be down 5 or 10%. Right, because they have the proper insulation in their portfolios to shield from that upcoming loss, and a lot of them still have plenty of potential on the upside as well. So it just really comes down to what is your situation, what is your comfortability, what apples do we have to work with as far as that goes, and making sure that you're putting together something that is again built to last. And let's be honest, when the market drops, a lot of us are either really comfortable with it, know it's going to come back. A lot of us are very uncomfortable with it and think it's not going to come back. So you want to make sure you're in the right portfolio for your circumstance to where we can kind of avoid that scandal and really put some peace of mind out there with the retirement plan to know, well, if it does take a little longer to come back, I know that I'm not going to have to take half a less income than I'm taking right now, right? So it's making sure you're putting the right building blocks in place.
You're listening to the Financial Beat with Logan Sadler, Regari Financial. Again, the number to call if you like a discovery meeting is 888-823-PLAN. We talk about discovery meetings a lot, but they don't cost anything and don't obligate you to do anything. So why would you not take advantage of the opportunity? 888-823-PLAN. We're talking about having a scandal-free retirement. And, so many times we've discussed how folks aren't really aware of the kind of fees that they're paying inside their portfolio. Some people may have a good idea, but they're paying too much. But I guess one thing you can do to protect yourself from having a scandalous retirement is blow the whistle on unnecessary or excessive fees.
Yeah, it's something where I always say I there's a difference between being cheap and there's a difference between excessive fees, right? There's a lot of people out there where, I always say when you're interviewing advisors, you don't want to say, listen, I want the cheapest advisor out there, right? That's probably, you might say that in your head. You might say, I don't want to pay that much, but let's be honest. I mean, when you really say it out loud and think about it, you really want the cheapest advisor out there handling your life savings. Probably not, right? You want someone that's well compensated, fairly compensated, but not overly compensated, right? And that's the funny thing out there. I love to bring that joke up. If you're looking for the absolute cheapest advisor, I would just really rethink saying that out loud, because what happens is when the market's going through all this, or when the market's booming and you're not making money or whatever's happening, you're going to go, well, yeah, it's probably because I have the cheapest advisor, right?
Yeah.
So
you get what you pay for.
Yeah, get what you pay for. You're totally right on that, and that's something I definitely believe in. And I always say that, yes, being an advisor, I think fees are important, right? It's something where we have that conversation. A lot of our clients, when they come on board with us, fees are not a deciding factor. I don't ever like to sell off of bake. I don't like to ever really onboard clients without having to push on, hey, you're paying your advisor too much, or this or that or the other. I really like to put the plan together and let the plan be the reason the clients come on board. But a lot of the times fees are something that comes up, and we have to talk about it. Because like you said, with our clients, I want them to know exactly what they're paying and why they're paying it, right? I think that's so important. If there is a fund we have or an investment they have that has a fee on it, then perfect, that's fine if we're getting value from it. But let's make the client aware of what they're paying, right? That's so important. The other thing that comes up a lot, Ron, like you said, is hidden fees. There's a lot of clients out there. I had a client come on board with us. We met on Zoom, and she was a client from out in Orange County. And it was funny. She called in on the radio show, and we were able to do the discovery process. And while doing our assessment, she had over about $1 million put away for retirement. And it was funny. We were doing our assessment, and she had been paying her advisor. She didn't know, so she had to find out. She was paying her advisor around 1.5%, and which is industry standard for a good advisor. You're paying anywhere between 1% to 2%, depending on what services and things of that sort you're getting. And that was fine, right? But when we looked at her holdings, she was paying an additional almost 2% of an additional fund cost and expense ratios and all the other stuff in that. So now you look at her portfolio went from being industry standard, right, between 1% to 2%, to where now she was almost to 4% when you were adding up all of her fees. Now, to me, most of you out there aren't even, a lot of you guys don't even just hope to average 4%, right? So it's funny when you look at the fees, they can totally go backwards, like I said, where, yeah, there is a difference between justifiable and understandable to where, hey, this is a little excessive and this is potentially going to harm your long-term longevity of this portfolio. So it's very important to have that conversation.
So in other words, you need to collude with a good advisor like Logan Sadler.
Yeah, definitely. I think having an advisor that's able to show value and bring value to you throughout different stages of your retirement, to me, is so important. And we really do take pride in getting to understand the clients, building out the financial plan, not just centered around products, but really around planning, looking at taxes, looking at fees, looking at longevity, looking at what happens if something happens to you, how do these assets going to pass on, and we feel that is all so important. And when meeting with clients, again, we have tons of clients all over, and we really believe in value is something that the advisors are here to bring. Customer service is something that the advisors should be bringing, and as well as knowledge is something that obviously they should be bringing, as well as you want to make sure they have plenty of tools to work with, right? So if you're looking for an advisor to help put together a financial plan to transition you and your family into retirement, and you're looking for a tax-efficient, peace of mind retirement, give us a call. I'd be happy to sit down, spend an hour with you, get to know a little bit about you and your family, and see if we can't bring some value to your retirement.
888-823-PLAN. That is 888-823-PLAN, your number to call. I hope you've written it down by now. If not, do it now. 888-823-PLAN. That number will get you a conversation with Logan Sadler. All you need to do today is call and leave a message with your name and phone number. You'll get a call back from the good folks at Regary Financial, and you can arrange a convenient time to have your conversation with Logan Sadler. It can be in one of the offices, either Redlands or Hemet, or you might want to have it via Zoom. It's just that easy. Logan Sadler will be happy to sit down and talk with you about your financial situation. Gonna get to know you. That's why we call it a discovery meeting. You discover things about him and about Regary Financial and what they can do for you, and he discovers things about you. In other words, gets more specific about your situation and what your wants and needs are in your retirement lifestyle that you've always imagined that you wanted to have. 888-823-PLAN is your number to call to make it all happen. This is the Financial Beat. I'm Ryan Stutz along with Logan Sadler. There's more coming up on the other side of this timeout.
What is your name?
I am Arthur, King of the Britons.
What is your quest?
To get retirement ready.
What is the PE ratio on your portfolio's top grossing products?
I don't know that.
Don't get blown to bits by complex jargon. Let Logan help you over the bridge to a meaningful retirement.
Welcome back to the Financial Beat, and the beat goes on, as they say. Logan Sadler is on the radio, as always, with this show, and we appreciate your spending a little time with us today. 888-823-PLAN, that's your number to call if you'd like to have a discovery meeting with Logan Sadler, and it's a very pleasant situation, very nice, easy conversation. You get to know him, he gets to know you, and you're under no obligation at all to do anything beyond that talk. And again, there's no cost. 888-823-PLAN. That is 888-823-PLAN. Call that number for Regary Financial, and you can arrange a time to have a Zoom get-together or maybe a meeting in the office, Hemet or Redlands. 888-823-PLAN is your number to call. We get great questions every week from our listeners out there. And Logan, our first question today is from Jimmy, and Jimmy is in Riverside. Jimmy says, 2 years ago, we bought a lake house where we stay about 30% of our time, but still have our primary home where we stay most of the time. So they stay in the main house 2/3 of the time, and at the lake house about 1/3 of the time. So nice. He goes on to say, we currently have a mortgage on both properties. When we retire in 2 years, we'll either sell the primary home and move to the lake, or sell both the houses and buy a different home for retirement. Now, in the meantime, I'll be getting a couple of big bonuses from work. Should I use that to pay down these two mortgages, or just invest that money elsewhere?
Yeah, great question, Jimmy, and it sounds like you're on track there, and you kind of have an idea of what you're wanting to do there for retirement, which is great. What I would suggest, it might not be the most popular opinion, but here's what I would suggest in that circumstance. I would want to know how much the bonuses are first off, just to make sure we're on the same page. But essentially what I would probably do, since you're planning on selling one or possibly both of the houses, I'd want to make sure if the interest rates aren't too bad, what I would probably do, if your interest rates are, let's say, between 2 to 4%, what I would probably do is I would not put those money, that new money, into the houses, because housing values will vary, right? It might go up over the next 2 years. It might go down over the next 2 years. So what I would probably do is I would either save or invest that money somewhere else where it is liquid, and you can get to it in that 2-year time frame, where if you decide to sell one or both those houses, now we have an extra lump sum of cash to go dump in on those new houses we want to buy, plus whatever we get from the sell of those two houses. I think that'd probably be the best way, because again, if you put more and more money into that house, and you're for sure going to sell it, then it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, just because the value of the house could be worth $500,000, and then it could be worth $400,000 next year, right? We have no idea. No one has that crystal ball. So I would probably recommend just saving that money, put as much of it as you can away. If you'd like to invest some of it, then great. But I would really look at a way just to stockpile cash to help this move make more and more sense when the time comes. Now, if the time changes where you say, hey, we're going to keep the lake house, then obviously, okay, we can start dumping money back into the lake house to try to get that paid down, depending on how much we owe and what the interest rate is. But great conversation, Jimmy. I would love to further that and kind of give you some more advice there, but that's what I would probably do in your situation, just to kind of hedge our bet there.
Jimmy, if you want to get into more specifics, then here's the number to call. Once again, 888-823-PLAN. Get a conversation with Logan about that situation and make sure you make the right decision. Next question here is from Rhonda in Menifee. And Rhonda says, Logan, I've been putting 10% into my 401k for years, and it's always grown for me, but recently it seems stagnant. Boy, 10%, it's pretty good.
Yeah, that's doing awesome.
Yeah. She says, I'm still putting money in every paycheck, but my account balance has barely changed in the last 6 months. Should I be investing in something different or stopping my contributions as a response to this poor performance?
Great question, Rhonda. You're probably one of the thousands of people right now out there at this current time asking that same question, right? The problem with the market, right, is when the market is going up and you're putting money in, we all love it, right? It's great. But the problem is when we're putting money in and we don't see much performance or poor performance, it makes us question it. But the biggest thing is, I can't tell you if I'd change your investment options or not because I'm not quite sure what you're in the 401k because you do have a few different options. But as far as investing, I would definitely, depending on your age, I would definitely keep that 10% going into that 401k. Like Ron said earlier, that is awesome. Keep putting as much money in there as you can because right now, during that stagnant, slower time, is actually a great time to be putting more and more money in, right? Because that way now, if the market does take off this year, next year, whenever it decides to, you'll be in a great spot and have more and more money in there to now begin compounding. So I know it's hard to see sometimes when the market's not doing what we want it to do, but it will over the long run. So make sure that you're putting that same amount in there. If you're getting close to retirement and over the age of 59 and a half, I would definitely recommend giving us a call and we could sit down and strategize and go over more in depth of what your holdings are and what other options might be out there. But if you're under that age, I would definitely keep just putting as much money as you can to the 401k and getting ready for retirement because it sounds like you're on a great track.
Well, Rhonda's a good saver. We know that much for sure.
Yeah, good for 10% Rhonda, we'll call her.
Yeah. Rhonda, call Logan Sadler's office at 888-823-PLAN. And help me, Rhonda. I think of the Beach Boys when I hear that name. Next question here is from Lester in Beaumont. And Lester says, I've heard that you should usually roll money from your 401k to an IRA when you leave your job. But that's usually, not always. What are the reasons that you would not do that?
Great question. What's funny is we actually have a YouTube video on this topic as well. I did. So if you haven't, go over there and check that out. I think you get some value from that. But also, I'll give you my answer on here as well because we appreciate you writing in. Basically, it's kind of a disclosure thing, right? Usually, I would say almost all the time you should roll over that 401k when you're eligible to or when you're no longer working there. The reasons why you wouldn't is if you're meeting with an advisor and you don't like the plan or you don't like the investment options or too many fees or whatever it is. Those can be some of the reasons you can kind of nitpick and not do it. But I would say I have seen where whether you go with us or another advisor, it is so beneficial to roll over that 401k because the problems, Lester, is you have such limited options in that 401k, right? Sometimes the fees might be low, sometimes the fees might be high, but you have, 5 or 10 different options to choose from. You got a target date 2025 fund, and that's about all you have in there and a few other ones. So I think the biggest reason is why you would roll it out is you would have so many more options to the whole world of investing, right? You have stocks, bonds, annuities, ETFs, you have real estate funds, you got annuities, you got all these different things to look at, private equity funds, right? Everything. So I think the biggest thing is understanding the reasons why you would, that's why. The reasons why you wouldn't is I haven't really came across a point where, again, and that's not me being sales or anything, I've seen it where whether you're going with us or another advisor or doing it yourself, it is normally beneficial if you're rolling over that to an IRA, as long as you're doing your research and it's going into a good investment is, I think, the biggest thing why I would say usually, because you want to make sure you're finding the right investments for that. If you're trying to make a lot of money and be really aggressive and you're rolling it over to a CD, that probably isn't a great rollover, right? So you want to make sure you understand why you're doing it, what are the benefits of it, what are the pros and what are the cons, and really making sure why most people roll it over is because they're wanting to work with an advisor and a planner to help get them to retirement and help more put their assets more to use for retirement. So those are the reasons I would say you'd want to make sure it's a good fit for you.
I know a lot of folks out there may have questions, not just Lester and Rhonda and Jimmy, but, they haven't bothered to write in. But you may have questions that you'd like to ask Logan, and you can take care of that in a conversation. And I'm going to tell you the number to call in just a moment here. But, Logan, what happens in that very first conversation with folks? Do you spend some time, answering some basic questions for them?
We do. That's a great point, Ron. I mean, typically, like what I said earlier, one of my biggest things is it's a great conversation between us. And why I mean conversation is because, you're going to have tons of questions to ask, and I'm going to have tons of questions to ask you. So it's a great opportunity for us to get together, see if we can get all your questions answered, and to see if we're a good fit to work together. And that's really what the Discovery Meeting's for. I don't care if it's on a Zoom or a phone call or in person, but just really getting to know you and understand where you're coming from, what you're trying to do, as well as, it's a great time for you to ask questions. And we always say that my only goal for the Discovery introductory meeting is to make sure that you're walking away with some value and coming into the second meeting so we can begin to continue to work together and go throughout our process. So if you're interested in getting together and coming in or doing a Zoom call and getting some more information on our firm, as well as educating yourself a little further about your situation, give us a call. I'd love to spend an hour with you.
888-823-PLAN, 888-823-PLAN. It's important to point out that this conversation is not going to cost you one penny, and there's no obligation. In other words, no strings attached. So find out what you can, and the number to call to make that happen is 888-823-PLAN. You can get a good assessment of where you are, talk about where you want to go, and get some ideas on what you need to do in order to get there in your retirement years. We all have some idea of what we want our retirement to look like. Logan Sadler can help you sort all that out. The number to call again is 888-823-PLAN. That's 888-823-7526. Call that number. It doesn't matter if you're in Rancho Cucamonga, Orange County, Loma Linda, Corona, Indio, wherever you happen to be today. Thank you very much for listening. One more time, that number is 888-823-PLAN. Hey, Logan, I've enjoyed spending a little time with you today. It's been a good show, and I know you're going to hear from a lot of these folks out there.
Yeah, I hope so. Love to get the opportunity to talk with all you listeners, and we appreciate the great feedback over the years on this show, and look forward to bringing it to you each week here on the Financial Beat, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your week, and we will see you guys soon.
Once again, the name of the show is The Financial Beat. The name of the person that you hear on this show every week is Logan Sadler at Regari Financial. And one more time, the number 888-823-PLAN. We'll see you next week.
The information provided is for educational purposes only and is not intended as investment advice for anyone. All information discussed is believed to be from reliable sources. However, we make no representation as to its completeness or accuracy. The views presented today are those of BD Financial Group and do not necessarily represent the views of Alpha Star Capital Management, LLC. The opinions expressed are subject to change without notice and do not constitute financial, tax, or legal advice. Please consult with your financial professional before executing any financial strategy. Investment advisory and financial planning services are offered through Alpha Star Capital Management, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Alpha Star and BD Financial Group are independent entities. SEC registration does not constitute an endorsement of the firm by the Commission, nor does it indicate that the advisor has attained a particular level of skill or ability.